Hi everyone, welcome to Conversations with Creatives during COVID. At this time, we know many people are doing it tough. Livelihoods changed in a matter of days, especially in the arts. The aim of this is to check in with fellow actors, filmmakers, crew and creatives to see how they've been coping with lockdown restrictions, to find out how they've been able to keep themselves active, and most importantly, to lend them a supportive ear. Today, I'm talking with Brooke, who's a fellow filmmaker, actor, director, and also a wonderful aerialist as well. So thanks for joining us, Hannah.
Thank you for having me.
So first off, I just really want to ask, how have you been coping during this time?
Wow. I've gone through a few different stages. So sort of back at the start of March, when it all seemed a bit, I don't know, like nobody really knew what to think about it all. I was in this like, oh, we'll be fine. And then as soon as it like hit like overnight with how big this is. And then I just curled up into a ball, literally into a ball for about a week trying to process it all. And it just felt too overwhelming to do anything. And so then I went through this phase of feeling really like I was failing whatever isolation was meant to be, because there was all these people posting online about their home workouts and, you know, I've cut this edit and, you know, etc. And I was just literally in a pool. So then I sort of, I've come out of that side and now I'm in a much more creative space, which is brilliant. And I'm sort of able to appreciate what isolation is offering, which is, you know, time out of the noise of outside and often be in your creative brain without disturbances, I guess. So now I'm in a good place, but if you'd have asked me a few weeks ago,
Yeah, well, I guess that also leads me on to like, what have you actually been doing to keep active, both physically and mentally?
Okay, so physically, I've been a bit more physically active than mentally active through this from the start, because as you mentioned, I'm an aerialist and I have an aerial rig at home. So I'm able to sort of train whenever the weather allows me to. Today's
yeah, I was going to say the last few days in Melbourne haven't been fair to be doing that.
No. So when the weather's nice, I'm able to get some training done, which is really good because I'm in a much different space to what I'm used to being in. So I'm used to being in a studio with nice high ceilings and solid rigging. And now I'm in a rig which sort of restricts you to, you know, 3 meters across, I guess. So at any one point you're kicking legs on the rig and, you know, so it's good. It's good to be creative in trying to find new ways to train with what I've got available at the minute. Going on daily walks, which is really important, especially for my husband to get him out of the house because he needs to be active all the time. So that's been hard for him. Yeah, so that's sort of been the active side of thing. I've done a couple of online classes and those kind of things. But mentally, I finished a screenplay that I was writing, which I'm really pleased that because I started that in January and sat on it for a bit because it's a bit of a deeper story than I've ever written before. So that was really good to finish the first draft of that, and that's now in the reviewing stage. And I am doing some tighter edits on my feature film that I'm filming at the minute, which is really good. It's really nice to not have to rush through, you know, the rough cuts and so that's been really nice. And playing around with where I could go next with that, and also sort of still networking with people. So still contacting people. You know, I've been in contact with an editor, I've been in contact with a composer, like a few different people that can help the feature sort of move forward when all this is over and we can get on with filming. And then also have been working on a very exciting project with 2 other fantastic creators.
Yeah, I wonder who they are.
One of which is yourself, David. But that's been brilliant because it sort of ticks off a couple of boxes for me. So it ticks off the social side of things and, you know, still being able to work with people and, be social, I guess, because both of you are friends of mine as well. But it also is good to get my creative brain ticking again in a writing space. It's been really good, and I've always wanted to collaborate with other writers and directors and producers, and you know, so this is a really good opportunity for me to be able to do that. We're sort of forced into, you know, the only thing we can do at the minute is to use what we've got available online. So we're sort of forced into these online collaborations, I guess, for the moment. But it's been a really fantastic experience. So far so good, and I'm really enjoying working with
Yeah, there only seems to be so much you can do with online collaboration. I guess that's what everyone else is waiting for, to be able to meet up together, to be able to really get things really happening. Because there's only so much you can do online. I guess you sort of answered there as well, but I was just wondering, have you been able to check in on like other people as well?
Yeah, I am trying to check on people. It's hard because it's such an unknown space that we have never been in before. So there's times when I've really gone into a little closed box and not able to sort of, I guess, give myself and my care to other people. And then there's times when I'm having a great day and dealing with it fantastically and have the energy to give to other people. So yes, I am trying to check in with people, but I think it's also important to acknowledge that, you know, this is an unknown space for everybody, and there might be some days where you need to sort of step back and look after yourself first. And if that's staying in your pajamas all day and eating crap, then that's what it is. That's what it looks like. So yes, I am checking in with people, but yeah, it's sort of been a bit of give and a bit of take.
Yeah, I guess also at this time there does appear to be that light at the end of the tunnel now, when we're getting up to this magical date of May 11, where things will be announced. But probably in Victoria, we're probably going to be under a bit more of a lockdown for longer still. So
And that really changed. That was a turning point for me, because up until I think it was Easter weekend, there wasn't really a light, I guess, at the end of the tunnel. There wasn't really a point at which that we all thought there might be a chance of this being over. And so that's what I found the hardest, is the unknown aspect of it, the not knowing when we're going to come out the other side and can go back to normal life. So I think it was Easter weekend that it was either the Prime Minister or the Victorian Premier announced that the state of emergency was going to be extended until the 11th of May. But having the 11th of May as a date in my mind just changed everything for me. It made everything so much more doable.
It gave you like a point of certainty, like you knew, like, okay, at this point we're going to know what is going to happen.
Yeah.
But then we could still be in lockdown again for another month or so. So we don't know at this point.
It's true, but it was just that little glimmer of hope, I think, that really changed things for me. So so you never know, and you know, whatever happens on the 11th of May might not go in our favour, but at least then hopefully we'll have another date to look forward to.
Hopefully, because like as long as we have that certainty, but if we had this uncertainty, it would be really bad. So if it was more uncertain, like, how do you think you would have been able to cope with that mentally?
I mean, I think we're at a stage now where we're on the downhill slope of this all. So on the way up, nobody knew what it was we were dealing with and how bad it was going to get. And then we sort of got to the peak where everyone was staying at home, and you know, it was quite bad, worldwide more so. But I feel like we're on the way down now, which means that whatever happens on the 11th of May, there'll be another probably date for us to look forward to. And whilst we might take a mental hit from it not being on the 11th, but I think it's sensible for us to believe that whatever happens on the 11th, normality is not going to be happening from the 12th onwards.
Yeah.
So I've never assumed that from the 12th everything's going to be back to normal. It was just having that little seed of a date that's like, well, something might change on that date.
From this date, we may actually be able to meet up in groups of more than just two.
Exactly.
We can actually go out for other reasons, not just for exercise and shopping for essentials.
Exactly. And I think economy comes into it now as well, because we're at a point where we're sort of stabilizing a bit in Australia, and obviously they need to maintain what we've achieved by flattening the curve. I hate using that term, I'm often said it. But you know, we're on the other side of it now, and so now it's like, whilst people's health is monumentally important, the economy now needs to start to sort of rebuild itself. So I think whatever happens on the 11th of May, there'll still be that little glimmer of hope, that light at the end of the tunnel. It might just be that we're given a bit more information about when that might be, which might not be from the 11th or the 12th or whatever. So yeah. We're moving forward. That's
But out of all of this, what would you say has been the hardest aspect for you?
I always thought of myself as mostly an introvert. I actually think of myself as an extroverted introvert, but I do
I
like.
kind of see myself as that as well, but then it becomes an oxymoron, that.
I know, but I think I really value the time that I have with people. I'm somebody that tires from extensive periods of time in social events or with social, situations. But I definitely value the relationships that I have creatively that I've been able to maintain through this. And I value space outside, because being an introvert doesn't mean you want to stay at home all the time. Like, I also consider myself a bit of a wild child, that, free-spirited wild child that likes to be outside in nature. So I will never, ever underestimate the power of being outside in nature, being around people, that you click with creatively, and just being able to pop to my favourite cafe, which might be more than 10 minutes down the road, for my favourite smoothie bowl. So
Yeah, because I can remember there was one day which I didn't have to, actually had a day off from work, and with my partner away, they were working that day. I was completely bored out of my mind being at home. I did not know what to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm the same as well. Like, I like having my own time, but just having all this time and knowing, okay, I can't actually go out to do anything. What can I do in here?
Yeah. So it's quite. I'm the same. Like, my husband normally works 5 days a week, but he did break his wrist a couple of weeks ago, which has been lovely for me. But before he was at home, I'd sit there. There'd be days where I'd sit there, and this was in my curled up ball stage, and I'd sit there and I'd just achieve absolutely nothing. And he'd come home having been in the outside world, like, why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? I don't understand. You've got all this time. But it's like, time is only valuable to us if we're in the right headspace to be able to use it. And so when you're sort of stuck looking at the same walls without being able to communicate to anybody else during the day, time isn't.
I guess that also brings in the aspect of, well, like, with so many things having been cancelled or postponed, we don't really have like a deadline on things. Like, with so many like film projects and that, like, we've slowed down our edits because we don't actually have to rush it now. We don't actually have a set deadline. So we kind of get ourselves into this hole where we just kind of leave it and then realize, oh, I should be doing something on that, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
There's not that sense of urgency with it anymore.
That's right. And that's sort of quite relevant with the feature that I'm producing at the minute, because we're sort of about halfway through filming, which is great. And I had great ambitions this year to just smash out the second half of the film, which included some really big scenes. And I was really looking forward to doing that. And I'd sort of given myself a deadline of when my insurance runs out, because I just thought that's not that I'm not.
That's a good deadline.
Yeah, it's nice to know that you don't have to fork out another $600 for your insurance specifically to be able to finish your feature. So that ends in August, and that was quite a reasonable time frame for me to have completed, principal photography, to be well into the edit. And then this happened. And so
bit inconvenient, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know. And then the insurance party won't come to the party and help me out and put my insurance on hold, which is anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
But yeah, time frames have definitely changed. We have time now to, put into the edit and sort of the post side of things. But yeah, because you don't have that deadline pushing you anymore, there's days where you're like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or the motivation level drops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is that double-edged sword. Like, we've got too much time to know what to do with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. In what way, like, do you actually want to be able to come out of all of this? How do you want to, like, in what way do you want to have bettered yourself, or what do you feel like you want to have been able to achieve out of all this, so to speak, if anything?
It would be nice to come out of it sane, which
sane would be a good option. Yeah.
I think Oh, that's a really hard one, because when isolation sort of, or social distancing, staying at home, that kind of thing really kicked off, another phase I went through, which I forgot to mention earlier, was this, we're going to come out of this stronger. We're going to, we're all going to come out of this stronger within ourselves, but also having achieved things that we wanted to achieve at home, and blah, blah, blah. And that would be nice to achieve. But then I sort of took the heat off myself, I guess, in terms of what was expected of me to achieve. Because, then we went through all the different phases that have killed up all phase I've discussed. So it would be nice to come out of this with a clear vision of what I want the rest of the year to look like. Because everybody's saying 2020, let's not talk about it, it's down the drain, it's a waste of the year, whatever.
It was supposed to be such a good year to start off with. Then we start off with a massive bushfire. And then we saw, we're out of it. Then all of a sudden, we got a pandemic. Okay. Yeah.
And everybody went into 2020. Everybody that I know went into 2020 with such a clear vision and ambition.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, boom, like, nope.
Yeah.
But we also need to remember that it is only, the 2nd of May. So, it's not the entire year that's gone. Yes, maybe the rest of the year isn't going to be quite as we expected, but it doesn't mean that it's a waste of a year. So I'd like to come out of this pandemic with a clear vision of what I would like to achieve for the rest of the year, which includes finishing the filming of my feature film, potentially filming a short that is in pre-production as well, and of course have got through some stage of the project that I'm working on with yourself and Sam. So whether that we've finished filming or wherever we're at with that, it would be really nice to have that away. So creatively, that's what I would like to achieve, just to not waste the year and to come out of this with a clear vision of where to go next with freedom to do.
Yes. Do you have any advice that you want to give to others through your experience through all this?
Advice. I mean, I guess whatever your journey or experience has been through this whole social distancing, stay-at-home isolation situation, is to don't compare your experience with somebody else's, because every single situation is different. So, I live at home with my husband, who was at work full-time up until he broke his wrist, and now he's been at home. I know people that are trying to homeschool their kids that are also working from home. I know people that live at home, on their own, with no one to talk to. So every situation is different, and we can't compare what we achieved through this time to somebody else's. And so I guess the advice that I would give is to not come out of this and feel like you failed because you haven't written a new screenplay, or finished the edit on your film that you'd been putting off, or whatever it is that you're working on. Don't feel like there was an expectation to come out of this having achieved something, because really some of us just need to survive through this time, and that might mean getting up, showering and feeding yourself every day. And some of us might write the next masterpiece that's going to blow off, take over the world. We're on all in a different experience and all going through a different journey. And I don't have children, and I don't, I feel for people that do, that have children and are stuck in the house with them 24/7 and have to homeschool them. And, so whatever you take out of this experience, come out of it in your best possible shape, and don't compare yourself to somebody else.
I love that. Love that. That's perfect. Even for me, reassuring me of that.
Yeah.
Sort of touched on it a bit before, but throughout all of this, what have you learned about, say, yourself, about societies in general, the rest of your family who might be going all through this as well? What have you learnt in a broader sense?
I think I have learnt that the way that we come together, or the way that the majority of people come together or get through this time, is with the arts. And it just really reinforces how important the arts are. Only this morning I watched a collaboration between many amazing musicians that played a Foo Fighters song, and everybody played their part from their own homes. And there was artists from the US, the UK, all around the world that were involved in this. And it's had already like 9.3 million views. You know, it just shows really that the way that most of us are getting through this is watching Netflix, or, you know, watching TV in some form, listening to music, collaborating with other creatives. I don't know. I guess what I've really learned is how important the arts are. Number one.
Yes.
And second, how resilient we are as people. You know, I also think how weird we are as people, because the amount of times that I've gone to the supermarket and I've seen people dressed up in almost hazmat suits making their way around the supermarket.
I see that at where I work as well. Like, you see people coming in, like, that seems a bit excessive, but
Yeah.
okay, you do your thing.
Yeah, you do.
I'll just still keep my 1.5 meter distance away from you while I'm working.
Yeah, and then you have the people that wear, you know, the face masks. I saw a guy the other day and he had his face mask wrapped from here, you know, up. And I was like, I feel like you're missing the point, but if it makes you feel better, then, you know. So I think we're resilient. We're weird, stranger than ever.
I guess you could also say we're creative, like, somehow ingeniously creative in some ways with some of these things we're seeing.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Creative and geniuses. Like, yes. And all the funny videos that have come out of this, I've seen, you know, we've both been a part of somebody that.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
You know, and what a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
To send that out to different actors. None of us were acting opposite anybody or could react to expressions, or, you know, and yet pulled this together into a funny little skit, I guess, a little. Yeah. So we're very creative the way that we've got through this. We are strong people. We look out for each other. We look after each other. And I hope that everyone comes out of this sort of more accepting of other people, because, you know, when you're stuck with who you're stuck with, for example, we can really only walk around our estate at night time and you say hi to the same people, and there might be people that just drove past you in the past and wouldn't, you know, look your way, but, you know, so accepting of people and just kindness, being kind to people, and knowing how important who essential workers are these days. Because it's like, you know, the essential people used to be like the big bosses and the this and the that, and it's, well, who's out there working now on the front line? Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question.
I know that's still fine, but and I guess finally, like, what are you looking forward to the most once most of the restrictions are eased and we can actually meet up with other people, like your friends, your families, your peers, and all that? What are you looking forward to the most?
Okay, I love hugging. Let me just say that.
Yes.
So whether you like hugging or not, you're getting a massive hug from me. And I hope to make it slightly weird as well, because that's fun.
Well, considering there's probably like 1.5 months worth of hugs that people have missed out on, really. So you kind of need to make up for it.
Exactly. And I was joking with somebody just this morning, actually, about how we keep getting those ads that pop up on the TV, like the do coronavirus. Stay at home. And I was like, when the date is announced that we're allowed to be outside and hug people again, it needs to be like, here's how to approach people again, and learn how to hug people again. Hugging is like the human contact is very important to me, and one of the number one things I'm looking forward to. Seeing people again, just seeing them face to face and being able to talk, and not being on a time limit with Zoom calls and, you know, the rest of it. And the freedom to be creative in whatever space you want to be in. So not having to look at your blank walls and think, oh, I need to do something, and it's not inspiring. Eating all my favourite foods again. That, you know, my favourite cafe is in Burnley, and I can't get there because I don't live near Burnley. Oh, and it's closed. So and filming again. I can't wait to call action on the first scene back.
That would be great. Yeah,
that would be a brilliant moment, and, you know, I will never ever take for granted what we are able to do in this industry again.
I guess also you can't wait to get back in the proper studio with your Aerialhoods as well.
Oh, yes. There's so much I feel like I've lost. Like, it's going to be the moment that I can, you know, touch hoop again on proper rigging and fling myself around and spin crazy fast. It's just
because you had a competition cancelled because of this, didn't you?
Yeah, it was. There's a competition. It's called Miss Lyra Australia. So it was the Vic Heats that were cancelled in March, I think they were in, and it was literally the week before that all the things were announced about the venue sizes and all that. So it had to be cancelled, and that was really sad because I trained so hard for that. I've made my own costume. I was really proud of. So I guess training for that, because that was postponed more so than cancelled. So yes, getting back into comp fitness again and being able to do the things that I can again, and being able to add, I guess, I mean, we've been given a bit more time, so being able to add to the routine in a positive way that I put together, and yeah, look forward to finally putting that on stage. That's another thing, like,
yeah,
you know, I really am somebody that I'm a very feely person, so, you know, standing side of stage when they announce me, you know, for the first time on stage again after all of this, it's just going to be like, wow, we're back here again.
It'll be one of the best feelings you ever have. Yeah.
Taking that bow after your first performance, it's going to be really, a big moment.
Well, thank you so much for giving us an insight into how you've been dealing with this. So hopefully, as we know, May 11, we might know a bit more by then, and even though we might still be restricted a bit, there may be some easing of things, so at least we know that things are really only going to get better from now. But this whole period's just been tough on everyone. Thank you so much for giving us an insight.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me a bit of social connection with somebody today as
well. And soon it won't just be through computer screens.
I know, I'm coming at you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Hannah.
Well, thank you.